Tiamat is disgusting. Welcome back to another episode of Southern Sorcery. Today, guys, we are looking at Tiamat. This is maybe the quintessential dragon. Dragon is really good. I don't know, though. This one, I think, gives her a run for her money. So let's check out why Tiamat is so absolutely disgusting. We are going to look at the cards in the deck. We're going to look at how the cards impact each other and how the deck wants to play, what the lines are to win, and then we're going to have a little bit of gameplay for you guys at the very end. But before we do that, please help us out. We are less than 200 subscribers away from our 5,000 subscriber goal. We're at like, I don't know, we need like 170, 175 subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, help us out. Subscribe. Go ahead and like the video and drop us a comment too of what you think about this deck tech and why you think it sucks or why you think it rocks. And we'll just have a conversation about it. Let us know what your pet cards are in your dragon decks and what you would do with this one if you have it. So first up, of course, we have Tiamat. This is a five-headed dragon. It's a dragon god. This is the dragon in the D&D lore. I think Tiamat makes all the other dragons. This comes to us from the first D&D set, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Came out a few years ago. It costs 2 and WUBRG. WUBRG is just a little acronym that we in the Magic community assigned to decks that use all 5 colors. So that's going to be white, blue, black, red, green. WUBRG. I'll put the, anagram or whatever up on the screen. For a legendary dragon god, has flying, and whenever Tiamat enters a battlefield, if you cast it, so only if you cast it, search your library for up to 5 dragons not named Tiamat and with different names. So it can't be more copies of Tiamat, and they have to have different names than each other. But we want different dragons anyway, so that works out just fine. Reveal them all and then put them into your hand. So the goal is going to be to go get the dragons we want, and then hopefully we will have a way to empty all of those out as quickly as possible. We do have a few great ways to cheat those out, and we will go over that here shortly. But first up, let's just look at all the creatures. Let's look at all the dragons that we have, and we'll just look at all the cards individually from the deck. So first up, we have Ancient Brass Dragon. Ancient Brass Dragon is from the second Baldur's Gate, so second D&D set from Magic the Gathering, Baldur's Gate. Very slept on set, but guess what? Now everyone is trying to get collector boxes and booster boxes of these now that Tarkir has released, bringing dragons back into the forefront and the limelight. But Ancient Brass Dragon says whenever Ancient Brass Dragon deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20, and when you do, put any number of target creature cards with total mana value X or less from graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, where X is the result. So if you roll a 20, that means you have 20 mana's worth of creatures that you can put onto the battlefield from any graveyard, not just yours, onto the battlefield under your control. So Ancient Brass Dragon can be really good. It can go get stuff out of your opponent's graveyards. It can go get dragons from our graveyard and get them back out onto the battlefield. We will probably incur the wrath of some people, and our dragons will probably die at some point. So Ancient Brass Dragon is a great way to go get it. Next up, we have Ancient Copper Dragon. This is the most expensive and probably the best of the ancient dragons. So there's an ancient dragon for each color, but this one is Ancient Copper Dragon. It's a 6/5 flyer. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20. Again, right on theme with D&D in that crossover set. So all the ancient dragons have this mechanic. You roll a d20 and then they do something unique. You make that many treasure tokens equal to the result. So if Ancient Copper Dragon gets damaged through, you're going to roll a d20. Again, if you roll a 20, you're going to make 20 treasures. So Ancient Copper Dragon is a really good way to make treasures and then empty out the rest of those dragons from our hand. Next, we have Ancient Gold Dragon. Ancient Gold Dragon is 5 white for a dragon. It's a 7/10, has flying. Whenever it deals combat damage, you roll a d20. You make that many 1/1 blue fairy dragon treasure creature tokens. So again, you roll a 20, you make 20 1/1 blue fairy dragons. Then we have Ancient Silver Dragon, 6 blue. It's an 8/8 with flying. When it deals combat damage, you roll a d20. You draw cards equal to the result. Again, roll a 20, you draw 20 cards. And then you also get no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So that's unique. because whether Ancient Silver Dragon dies or goes away, you still get no max hand size for the rest of the game, and it has no bearing on the result of the D20 roll either. So you could roll a 1 and draw 1 card, you still get no max hand size for the rest of the game, so that's unique. Next we have a new dragon. New dragon alert! This is Betor Kin to All, 2 white, black, green for a spirit dragon with flying. At the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have total toughness 10 or greater, you draw a card, so card draw is really good. Then if creatures you control have total toughness 20 or greater, you untap each creature you control. So that's really good too, because now you can swing out with impunity. And then if creatures you control have total toughness of 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life rounded up. So that's insane. Yeah, so Betor is a pretty fun new spirit dragon. This one's from Tarkir, of course. Dragons are huge. Dragons have plenty of toughness. This one alone has 7, so you're like, you need one other creature out to hit that card draw. So Betor is going to be really good here. It's going to help us keep our hand full, drawing more cards, drawing more dragons, casting more dragons, etc. And then the rest is just gravy. The rest is just bonus. Then we have our first non-dragon creature. This is Birds of Paradise. We, spoiler alert, need a lot of mana to cast a lot of dragons. They cost a lot because the payoffs are huge. So Birds of Paradise is going to help us get there. It's 1 green, and then you can tap it to add mana of any one color. We also have another new dragon alert. This one is going to be Broodcaller Scourge. It's 5 green for a dragon. It says whenever one or more dragons you control deal combat damage to a player, you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that damage from your hand onto the battlefield. We've got big flyers. We could probably swing 1 at each opponent, and that means we're going to get to put 3 permanents out if we connect with damage to all 3 of our opponents. If we just hit 1, we get 1 permanent. If we hit 2, we get 2. If we hit all 3, we get 3. But anyway, even Broodcaller is a 5/7, so if you connect with Broodcaller Scourge, you're going to get to put something mana value 5 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. So this is going to help us empty our hand and cheat out more dragons. Next we have Canopy Gargantuan. This is another new dragon. New dragon alert. It's 5 green. It has flying and ward 2, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, put a number of 1/1 counters on each other creature you control equal to that creature's toughness. So, for example, the Broodcaller Scourge we were just talking about is a 5/7. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you're going to put 7 +1/+1 counters on it, and that's going to make it a 12/14. So, and then the next turn, it'll be a 26. You see how it stacks and compiles. So with Canopy Gargantuan out, our creatures are just going to get progressively bigger and bigger. Next up we have Cavern Horde Dragon. This is a really good dragon. I feel like it gets slept on and isn't in a lot of people's decks yet. It came in the Sauron precon of Lord of the Rings a couple years ago when that came out. Very, very good dragon. I find myself going and getting this one with Tiamat's ability a lot of the time because it has haste, flying, and trample. Plus, it has a reduction. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent controls. Artifacts are very popular. You've got treasures, you've got clues, you've got food, you've got all kinds of other stuff, soul rings, arcane signets, all those mana rocks, all those are going to be artifacts. So it's really easy to end up casting Cavern Horde Dragon for just the 2 red. A lot of the time someone will have 7 artifacts or more, but you get the reduction off of the 7. So you just cast Tiamat, you go and get Cavern Horde Dragon, you can get him out quickly, and then the best part about Cavern Horde Dragon, when it deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls. So again, if someone has 7 artifacts, you cast Cavern Horde Dragon, it has haste, has trample, so all you got to do is get in for 1 point of damage, and then you get to make that many treasures. So if you got a 7 reduction and then you swing at that player, you get to make then 7 treasures, which keeps letting us cast more dragons. So having dragons that make treasure or make mana in some way or cheat out other permanents is really vital to our game plan. So Cavern Horde Dragon is sort of a slept on MVP, but particularly good. Go pick up a copy. You will not regret having this in your dragon deck, no matter what dragon it is. Next, we've got Deceptive Frostkite. This is actually another sneaky good card. I have one with this card. It is 2 blue for a dragon with flying that says, you may have this creature enter as a copy of a creature you control with power 4 or greater, except it's a dragon in addition to its other types and has flying. This card is so good because we have a lot of really good dragons. And then for 2 blue, I can make a copy of whatever that other really good dragon is. I want an extra copy of Ancient Copper Dragon so I can make more treasures. I want an extra copy of Cavern Horde Dragon so I can make more treasures. I want a copy of Earthquake Dragon, which is a 10/10 trampler. Like, it's just really good to have there to make a copy of another really good thing, and it only costs 2 blue. Like, that's really good. Next up, we have Dragon Lord Dramoka. This is 4 green white for an Elder Dragon. That's a 5/7. This spell cannot be countered, so that's really good. It's gonna come out, no responses. Has flying and lifelink, and then it says opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So it's gonna come out. It's going to be uncounterable, so they can't stop it. And then once it resolves, no one can play anything on your turn. So that's really good. No interaction is really good. Next, we have a Goblin Shaman. This is Dragon Lord's Servant. So notably not a dragon, even though dragon is in the name. It's Dragon Lord's Servant. So this is a little goblin that's running around serving Tiamat with all the food on this giant platter that's about to crush him. It's just these massive platter of feast for our dragon overlords. It's dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so it just gives us a reduction, helps us lower the cost of some of our dragon spells. And then we also have Dragon Speaker Shaman. It's very similar. It's sort of like a guide maybe for the dragon, I don't really know, but it's a human barbarian shaman, and it says dragon spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, so that's going to reduce the cost by 2 generic mana from our dragons. Next up, we have Earthquake Dragon. We kind of talked about that a second ago. It is 14 generic and 1 green, so a total of 15 mana. So it's a very expensive dragon. However, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of dragons you control. So if you have Tiamat out and another dragon, another 7-drop or something, this Earthquake Dragon only costs 1 green mana, which is bonkers because it's a 10/10 with flying and trample. Plus, you can also pay 2 and a green to sacrifice a land and return Earthquake Dragon from the graveyard back to our hands, where we can recast it again for a single green, hopefully. Earthquake Dragon is not exceptionally useful as far as utility goes, but it's really good when you're trying to swing out and kill your opponents because it's a 10/10 trampler. And then, of course, you've got things that are going to buff our dragons as well. Next, we have got a great mana dork in this deck. This is Fabro Elder. It is 1 green and a white for a Tree Folk Druid, and it says it gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control. So when he comes in on his own, he's a 0/0, but he sees that he is a green and a white, so it's automatically going to get at least +2/+2, and then when we have Tiamat out, it's going to be a 5/5. And then you can tap it, and for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. So it's going to eventually tap for Wooburg, which is really great. And then very similarly, we also have Bloom Tinder. I skipped over Bloom Tinder a second ago. My bad. I was trying to keep everything alphabetical, but it's 1 and a green, and you tap it, and it taps for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. So they are very similar. Bloom Tinder costs 1 and a green, and the Fabro costs 1 a green and a white, so it's 1 more mana expensive. But they both will tap for Wooburg when we have all of our colors out, so really, really good. We also have another new dragon, so another new dragon alert. Gold Lust Triad is 4 and a red. It has flying and myriad. Myriad means when this creature attacks an opponent, you make a token copy that's tapped and attacking for each other opponent. So in a pot of 4, you swing it at someone, you're going to make 2 tapped and attacking copies of the Gold Lust Dryad going at each of the other opponents, and then you sacrifice them at the end of the turn. But whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. So a flying dragon that's going to make copies of itself, and then you're going to make treasure if it connects. So another good way to keep the ramp going. Having dragons that make treasure tokens are really good. Plus, it's crazy synergistic. Like, dragons have their treasure hoard. They're constantly making new treasure. They want to steal treasure from other players. It's just a fun mechanic. It's just a fun synergy. It's a fun flavor. Next, we have Ignoble Hierarch. This is a goblin shaman. Goblins kind of are dragons' sidekicks, if you will. They're little minions that run around doing the little things that the dragons don't want to do, like getting them food and making them resources. In this case, because Ignoble Hierarch is a green and it taps for red, black, or green. It also has Exalted, so whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. So if you're just swinging a single dragon, it'll get a buff from the Ignoble Hierarch. Next up, we have another MVP that's in this deck. This is Lathlas Dragon Queen. 4 red for a legendary dragon that's a 6/6 and has flying. Whenever another non-token dragon you control enters, so it doesn't have to be cast, it just has to enter, create a 5/5 dragon creature token with flying. So the Dragon Queen is going to birth baby dragons that are 5/5s and fully grown and ready to rock and roll. So this is going to make our board massive very quickly and easily, especially when you pair her with the next dragon, which is also an MVP in this deck. This is Miram, Sentinel Worm. You should know what she does, but if you don't, she has flying in Ward 2. Whenever another non-token dragon enters a battlefield under your control, make a copy of it, except the token isn't legendary if that dragon is legendary. So now we can make copies of Dragon, we can make copies of Old Gnawbone, we can make copies of Betor, Kin to All, we can make copies of Tiamat. This just gets really out of control. Miram is an incredible commander. I have a Miram deck. It's absolutely so much fun to play. The only downside to Miram is that she's not WUBRG, so she's missing white and black from her color identity. If Miram was a 5-color dragon, I think she would be the most popular dragon commander by a long shot. I think that's the only thing that keeps her at number 2, behind Dragon being the most popular. But regardless, she is absolutely integral to this deck and part of the win con and part of the game plan. Next, we have an honorary dragon. Not a real dragon. It's Morphon, the Boundless Shapeshifter, has Changeling, which means it's every creature type all at one time. So it is a dragon by default, but it's also everything else. So that's why I say honorary dragon. But when Morphon enters a battlefield, you choose a creature type. We will choose dragons, and then the rest of Morphon says spells of the chosen type.
Dragons.
That you cast cost WUBRG less to cast. This effect reduces only the amount of colored mana that you pay. So it will not cover the generic mana, but it will cover any of the pips in the dragon's identity. Morphon's really good here, especially if you have Miram out and you make a second copy of Morphon, because now that takes care of almost all the pips in all of our dragons. A couple of them have like 2 blue or 2 red or 2 green. If you have that second copy of Morphon, that cost gets reduced twice, so you end up being able to cast the dragons for just generic mana, and with our other reducers, sometimes just free. We also have Noble Hierarch. This is a single green for a human druid that has Exalted, and it taps for green, white, or blue, which is great because it helps to mana fix us in the early game to have a mana dork that taps for different colors. And then on the next dragon I've referenced a few times, this is Old Gnawbone. This also came to us from the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms D&D set, and it is probably the best dragon outside of Tiamat from that set. It has flying, and then whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, make that many treasure tokens. So if you deal 10 damage, you make 10 treasures. Ancient Copper Dragon and Old Gnawbone are both really good. I give Old Gnawbone the edge just because the most treasures you can make with Copper Dragon is 20. Old Gnawbone says for each creature that deals combat damage, make that many treasures. So if you deal 40 damage in a turn, you make 40 treasures. It's real good. It's very good. And it's really good here as well, because if you get some dragons out, Old Gnawbone doesn't have to attack to get this. Old Gnawbone doesn't have to deal combat damage to get this. Old Gnawbone just has to be on the battlefield. So if you've got 3 or 4 dragons, you cast Old Gnawbone, you move to combat, you can't swing Old Gnawbone, you don't have haste, but the other dragons connect, you still get to make those treasures. So you get Old Gnawbone out in your first main phase, you go to combat, and then in your second main phase, you've got a boatload of treasures to spend on whatever else you have in your hand. So really good. Next, we've got Renari, Merchant of Marvels. This one is from the Baldur's Gate set. It's a dragon artificer. It's 3 and a blue, and says you may cast dragon spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. So that means at instant speed, which is really great because that means we can hold back some dragons and then hold back those treasures on the player before us. When they go to their end step, we can just go ahead and cast all of our dragons. That way they're not sitting out there while the other players have their turns, and they can be susceptible to removal. You just cast them all right before it's your turn, then you move to your turn, and because they entered, they don't have summoning sickness. So basically you get to play them as though they had haste. Kind of, sort of. It's a roundabout way of doing that. But this is a super fun card here as well. Next, we have probably like the MVP of this deck, and that is Terror of the Peaks. It's 3 red for a dragon that has flying. When spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks costs an additional 3 life to cast. So it's sort of like Ward, except is better. It's not Ward, it's just you can't target it without paying 3 life. There is no optional, so you can't get around it. There are ways around Ward. Next up, we have the Dragon. The Dragon is also really good in this deck. 4 and Wooburg for a dragon that has Eminence, which won't really matter because it won't be in our command zone, but the Eminence happens whether it's on the battlefield or in the command zone, so we'll still get Eminence, but only if it's on the battlefield. And it just says other dragon spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast, so it's just reducing the cost of our other dragons a little bit. But here's the part of the Dragon that's really good. Whenever 1 or more dragons you control attack, draw that many cards. So if you swing with 7 dragons, you draw 7 cards. And then you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. So you're going to be able to put something from those 7 cards you drew out onto the battlefield. Next, we've got Twin Flame Tyrant. This is a newer dragon, not a newest dragon, but a newer dragon. This came in Foundations. Really good. It's really good paired alongside Terror of the Peaks because Twin Flame Tyrant says if a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage instead. So it's going to just help double up the damage that we're dealing. And with Terror of the Peaks, it's non-direct, it's non-combat damage, so we can win the game without even swinging. We just always have to do is cast dragons. Then we've got another new dragon. New dragon alert. This is Ureni of the Unwritten. It is 4 green, blue, red for a spirit dragon that has flying and trample. Whenever Ureni enters, so whenever it enters the battlefield, or when it attacks, look at the top 8 cards of your library. You can put a dragon card from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So Ureni is going to also help us get more dragons out for free. Terror of the Peaks is just going to see them enter. Miram is just going to see them enter. So a lot of really good payoffs for getting dragons out for free. Then we've got Utvara Hellkite. This is 6 red for a dragon that says whenever a dragon you control attacks, create a 6/6 red dragon creature token with flying. Utvara Hellkite can also be really good because it allows us to swing out. If we've got 5 dragons and we swing out with 5 dragons, Utvara sees that we've swung with 5 and then makes a 6/6 dragon for each of those. So we replace our attackers with new blockers. Really good. And then last we have Wrathful Red Dragon. This is 3 red. Also comes to us from the Baldur's Gate set. Whenever a dragon you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dragon. So that's going to include our opponent's creatures, planeswalkers, and just the opponents themselves. So that is going to close out our creatures. Quickly, let me just talk about Tiamat and these dragons. I have played Tiamat a bunch of times. I took Tiamat with me this weekend to Command Fest, which was in Orlando, and I played it a few times. I won with it every time I played with it. This deck is technically a 2 on the deck classification on the tier list. It does not play like a 2. It's really powerful. So when you cast Tiamat, you're going to go and get 5 dragons, depending on what you have out. But let's just say you don't have any other dragons out. I find myself going and getting first Miram, then Terror of the Peaks, because Miram, I'll cast Miram first, then I'll cast Terror of the Peaks, and Miram will make a copy of Terror of the Peaks. Then I'll cast Lathless, because Lathless makes the 5/5s, so that's really good too. And then I'll make a copy of Lathless, so I'll have 2 copies making the 5/5 token dragons. I'll usually get either Cavern Horde Dragon, which will have haste and make treasures so that I can cast more dragons, or I'll get Old Gnawbone, which is going to make a bunch of treasures as well. And then I'll either, for that last dragon, I'll either get the Dragon, or I'll get Ureni, because Ureni goes and gets another dragon from the top 8. So I can hopefully unload all 5 of those dragons if possible, or at least get 1 or 2 of them out and then go to combat, get the treasures, and then cast the rest of them. Hopefully on the 1 turn, I'll be able to unload all of those dragons. And we have a couple of other ways that we can do that as well. First, we have the new enchantment, which is Dracogenesis. Dracogenesis says you may cast dragon spells without paying their mana cost. This card is really bonkers because you can cast Tiamat for free from the command zone. So if you end up with this in your opening hand, you probably have the win as long as you have lands and a little bit of ramp, because all you really care about is getting to the Dracogenesis. You don't really care about casting anything else other than ramping enough to get the 8 mana to cast the Dracogenesis. You cast the Dracogenesis, now you can play your dragons for free. So you cast Tiamat for free from the command zone. When Tiamat comes in, you go and get the 5 other dragons. Then you put those 5 dragons out for free. If you put out Miram first, you're going to make copies of each of those dragons. If you put out Lathless, the Dragon Queen, you're going to make those token copies. They're all going to come in. Terror of the Peaks is going to trigger on all of those. You could also go get the Twin Flame Tyrant to deal double damage. You could also go get some hasty dragons so that you can swing out with them and have the Utvara, which is going to make the 6/6 dragons. It's just going to get out of hand really fast. You probably are going to win whatever turn you can get the Dracogenesis out, because the Terror of the Peaks is going to be able to deal enough damage to kill everything. Wipe the board, whatever you need to do, probably you're going to end up with the win. The other way to get these from your hand onto the battlefield is with a sorcery, and that is going to be Last March of the Ents. That comes from Lord of the Rings. This one is really good too. It's also 8 mana to cast. So the same casting cost as Dracogenesis, just with 2 green pips instead of the 2 red pips. But this spell can't be countered, so that's also really good. And then you draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control, and then you put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So again, if you get out Tiamat, you go and fill up your hand with those dragons, and then you go Last March of the Ents, and you can put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield, but you also get to draw 7 more cards before that happens. So in that case, I would probably try to go get things like Urini and Dragon that are also going to let you put out more creatures from your hand as the turn progresses. That way you're going to be sure to get, 10 dragons out on that turn, because you'll have 5 from the search of Tiamat. So you put out Miram, you put out Terror of the Peaks, you make another copy of Terror of the Peaks off of Miram, and from there you kind of do the same thing. You put out Lathless, it's going to make the 5/5s when other dragons enter. You're going to probably want to put out Urini. When it enters, you go look at the top 8 cards of your library, you put another dragon out. Dragon says you can put a permanent from your hand onto the battlefield, and you draw the card. So like, you're going to just keep drawing cards and keep filling up your hand and keep putting out permanents for free. And Terror of the Peaks is going to see that every time. So that's really the main win con in this deck, is Terror of the Peaks, because when all those dragons enter, you're just going to be hitting your opponents for massive amounts of damage. The other way to win, of course, is just to go to combat with those dragons. Like if you cheat them out and Terror of the Peaks, someone removes Terror of the Peaks, or whatever, you're still going to have these massive flying dragons. So chances are you're probably still going to win, even if you don't win in the non-combat step. You can just go to combat and kill everyone. So how do we get there? How do we find this win? I don't run any tutors in this deck. The only game changer here is Aura Shards, which is removal. Aura Shard says whenever a creature comes into play under your control, you may destroy a target artifact or an enchantment. So you can really wipe the board here, getting rid of any of those pesky artifacts or enchantments that are causing you problems or that are win cons in your opponent's decks. You can stop those things from happening. But let's just go ahead and look at ways to get there. So the first way we're going to get there, of course, is ramp. In our sorceries, we've got stuff like Cultivate, which goes and gets us lands. We've got Explore, which lets us draw a card and play an extra land. We've got Farseek, which goes and gets a land for us. We've got Nature's Lure and 3 Visits. Those are both very similar. They both go and get a land. We have an extra piece of removal here. This is Wear Down. You can destroy target artifact and enchantment, and if you gift a card, you can destroy 2 artifacts and enchantments instead. So that's a versatile card. Under Instance, we have Growth Spiral. So Growth Spiral is very similar to Explore. It's just a green and a blue. Draw a card, and you can put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, so you can get an extra land out. We have also got some counter magic to hopefully keep our board state intact and to keep our win cons alive. So we've got Arcane Denial, which counters a target spell. We've also got Assassin's Trophy, which destroys a target permanent, and then it gives our opponent a land. So Assassin's Trophy gets rid of any permanent, which is great because we can get rid of whatever the thing is that's going to keep us from winning. We've also got Boros Charm. It is a red and a white. This one, mostly we want it for that second choice, which says permanents you control gain indestructible until the end of turn, so it's going to protect our board state. But in a pinch, we could potentially use one of the other two modes. Boros Charm deals 4 damage to a target player or planeswalker, so that might be enough to get through and kill that last opponent. Or a target creature gains double strike until the end of turn, so something like Earthquake Dragon would deal 20 damage instead of 10 with that trample, potentially getting rid of another opponent. So Boros Charm is really versatile. We also have got Mana Drain, so it's another counter spell, and then it ramps us, which is really nice. So a really, really good one here because it gives us that much colorless mana at the beginning of our next upkeep. And then we've got some more targeted removal. This is Path to Exile. Its controller can go search for a basic land after you exile a target creature. And then Source of Plowshares also exiles a target creature, and its controller gains life equal to the power. So for 1 white mana, we can get rid of a creature, and then it can't be recurred because it gets exiled. So really, really good. And then under artifacts, we also have a lot of ramp here. We've got Arcane Signet. We've got Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind. It taps for red. If it is spent on a dragon, it gains haste until the end of turn. So that can also be really sneaky good, depending on which dragon that we cast with it. Giving our dragons haste is really, really good. We've also got Chromatic Lantern. We've got Felwar Stone. We've got the new Mox Jasper. We've also got Soul Ring, Talisman of Impulse, and then the Great Hinge. Those are all also going to be ramp for us. The Great Hinge, though, does notably a lot more than just ramp. Yes, the 2 green is really good, and the life gain is nice, but whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. So it's going to buff our creatures as they enter, and then we're going to draw cards off of them as well. So Great Hinge is really good. Under Harmonicon, this is 4 for an artifact that says if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers a second time. So just doubling up is really good. Doubling up effects is very, very valuable. But this will just help us, especially if we have Panharmonicon in the early game, then when we cast our commander, and then when we have ETBs and all those kinds of things. Under enchantments, we also have got Call the Spirit Dragon. Dragons you control have indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep for each color, put a 1/1 counter on a dragon you control of that color. If you put counters on 5 dragons this way, you win the game. So if you have 5 dragons and they each have a pip from 1 of each color, you win. So this card can also win the game out of nowhere. It does have to be on your upkeep, so you would have to cast the enchantment and then wait a turn cycle. So your opponents do have 1 turn cycle to respond to it or remove enough dragons to where that you can't hit the win con. So a little difficult, but it's there nonetheless, and it keeps them from interacting with some of our other things potentially. We also have got Dragon Tempest. This card can also win games out of nowhere. Whenever a creature you control with flying enters, it gains haste until the end of turn. So it gives our dragons haste, which is great. And then whenever a dragon you control enters, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of dragons you control. We also have Elemental Bond. This is a great card draw engine for us. When a creature you control with power 3 or greater enters, which is almost every dragon, draw a card. So now every time a dragon enters, we'll draw a card. We also have Greater Good. You can sacrifice a creature and draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, and then discard 3 cards. So this can also be really good, especially in the mid game when you don't need more mana rocks or you don't need lands in hand and you need to go get more dragons. Then we also have Guardian Project. When a non-token creature enters under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature in your control or in your graveyard, you can draw a card. In Commander, this is going to be a card draw every time that we have a creature enter the battlefield. We also have Teamer Ascendancy, giving us haste. So creatures you control have haste. When a creature you control with power 4 or greater enters, you may draw a card. In the lands, we have got a pretty good land base here. We've got some shocks, we've got some fetches, we've got some of the surveil lands. All of that is just an effort to mana fix us. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that. If you can't afford all of these expensive lands, there are budget options for all of these. They just make it a little harder to get to, but there's always going to be other things that can help mana fix you. They've got the new ley line that enters, and all of your lands are every basic land type. You've got the Chromatic Lanterns. There are other ways to get there, so don't stress out about the land base too much. This deck is still going to be really, really good and really, really dangerous, even if you don't run fetches and shocks and triomes and surveils. But a couple of notable lands. We've got the Maelstrom of the Spirit Dragon, a new land. Taps for colorless, or you can add 1 mana of any color only to cast dragons or omen spells. And omen spells are a new mechanic from Tarkir. We won't go over that here, but it's not really relevant in this deck. But it's a very good land because it taps for mana of any color for dragons, and we're going to be wanting to cast a lot of dragons. We also have another new land. This is Mistrise Village. It enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest. We probably will have those. It taps for blue, and then you can pay a blue into it and tap it, and the next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. That's really important, especially for something like Dracogenesis. Being able to use that and keep it from being countered, and then you can cast your dragons for free are really good. And then we also have Cavern of Souls. Cavern of Souls is good here too because you add 1 mana of any color, spend it to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. You'll have chosen dragons, and then that spell cannot be countered. Not being able to have Tiamat be countered is also really important. I mean, don't be afraid to cast it anyway. If you don't have Cavern of Souls out or you don't have the Mistrise Village, you got to shoot your shot. But having these lands here is just a little bit of extra just security that we're going to be able to get where we want to go with this deck. So anyway, let's move on to the gameplay. All right, so this is the first hand we were dealt here, which looks okay. We've got 4 lands. 1 is a fetch, so there's red, white, black so far. We can use this. We can go fetch land that taps for the other colors that we need. And then we've got some ramp here with the Orb of Dragonkind. We've also got some reduction with the Speaker Shaman here. So that seems all right to get started out with. Ideally, we would like to have some more color fixing, some additional ramp, but I think this will work. So we'll just play test this and see what happens. So for turn 1, we'll draw. Okay, yeah, so we drew a green source. So that'll be good. That way we can go get blue with the other one that we have, the fetch land. For turn 1, since we have the Underground Mortuary and it comes in tapped, we'll just go ahead and play the tapped land, and we will Surveil 1. Conjurer's Closet, we don't need that in the early game, so we'll just go ahead and let that go to the graveyard with the Surveil mechanic off of the Underground Mortuary. We'll move to our next turn. So now we have all 5 colors we need. We've got the Training Center here. That can enter in untapped because we have 2 or more opponents. We still don't have a play yet, so we'll just move on to the next turn. Miram, that's great. You want to see that as early as you can. Miram is really, really good, so having the ability to get her out earlier will hopefully be really good. So we can go ahead and play our land for turn here, and then let's go ahead and play the Orb Dragonkind. Tap out for that. And then move to the next turn. We've got Reliquary Tower, which is good, no max hand size. We've got black, green, blue, red, white, so we have access to all of our colors. We just don't have enough. Obviously, you have to have 5 to cast Tiamat, so we'll keep going. We don't need the Reliquary Tower right now, so we'll just go ahead and keep moving forward with some of these other lands. We want to play the Dragon Speaker Shaman this turn, and then we can start casting some dragons next turn. So let's go ahead and just fetch now. We'll tap for the Dragon Speaker, and then you would wait to fetch until right before your next turn, so we'll skip over that so you guys don't have to see it. So we went ahead and grabbed Watery Grave, which we'll just enter tapped since it's on the end step of another player's turn. We didn't need to shock it in, and then we move to our next turn. Oh, 3 visits, that's really good too. We'll keep the ramp rolling then. In that case, we'll just go ahead and play, I don't think it matters, Spectator Seeding as our land for turn, giving us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, 6 mana. 6 mana is really good. We'll go ahead and 3 visits because I want to be able to kind of hit the ground running. We're not a crazy threat right now. We have the reduction here, so we could play Miram for 4 and Lathless for 4 as well. So we need 8 mana to get them both out. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana out. So we have 8 mana next turn. That's exactly what we want. So we'll 3 visits now. So we'll go fetch again and put a land onto the battlefield. Get the Triumph, which enters tapped. We have 4 mana, but nothing to do with it. We'll go to the next turn. Oh, that's good too, the Dragon Lord's Servant. Okay, so now we've got Luxury Suite coming in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I think we can do it this way. Tap 2 for the Dragon Lord's Servant, reducing Miram to 3 now. 1 red, green, blue. Miram will come out. And then we'll tap red, red, and another for Lathless. And then we'll get a copy of Lathless because of Miram's ability. Gross. Then we can move to our next turn again. We need some card draws, what we need. Oh man, Ancient Silver Dragon. Looks like we're going to draw some cards, folks. All right, so we want to go ahead and cast Tiamat. This is going to get crazy. Black, white, red, blue, green for Tiamat. Make a copy of Tiamat. Gross. Each of these Lathless are going to trigger. We're going to make 2 dragon tokens because they're both going to see the first Tiamat and make a 5/5. All right, both Tiamats are going to trigger. We're going to go to our library. We're going to go get 5 dragons, and then we're going to go get another 5 dragons. So we've already got Miram and Lathless out, which are 2 of the grossest dragons. We don't have a lot of mana left. We've got 3 mana left. I don't know how far that's going to get us, but we're going to see what we can do here. The dragons that I typically go and get are dragons that can either cheat out other dragons or dragons that are going to make treasures so that we can kind of keep the turn going here. So Earthquake Dragon is going to be 1 because he'll get the reduction and he'll cost a single green. Dragon's really good. It just seems like such a silly thing to say. Dragon's really good. Ancient Copper Dragon, Morphon, Cavern Horde Dragon. We want to get Terror of the Peaks. Should have played the Reliquary Tower as land for turn. Then we wouldn't have to discard anything. Oh, we haven't played land for turn, so we're good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Yep. We can play the Reliquary Tower, so we don't have to get rid of anything. We can go Old Gnawbone, Terror of the Peaks. That's going to be our win con potentially. Let's go Dragon Lord so that they can't cast spells on our turn. Go Twin Flame Tyrant to double up damage. Let's go Ureni. Ureni cheats out dragons. For permanents. Broodcaller Scourge. That's the one I meant. Go back to the library. Shuffle. So we can at least play our land for turn, which is good. These all now go to our hand. All 10 of these dragons go to our hand. We've not gone to combat yet, so if we can, we want to get out something that can help us in once we get to combat. So something like Cavern Horde Dragon would be good because we're going to make 2 of it. So the likelihood of on turn 7 there being enough artifacts out here to reduce his cost to within, like we already get the reduction from Speaker Shaman and the Dragon Lord Servant, so we get 3 reduction off of that cost, reducing him down to 4 and 2 red. Then there's going to be at least a couple artifacts out on the board somewhere. So all we need is the reduction of 2 to get him out. So we're going to just assume that someone had at minimum 2 artifacts. Let's just say someone had 4, so we can cast him for the 2 red. So we'll cast the Cavern Horde Dragon. It's going to make 2 more of these 5/5s because of Lathless, and then we'll have a copy of Cavern Horde Dragon as well. Cavern Horde Dragon is great because it has haste, so then when it swings out and it deals combat damage, you make a number of treasures for each artifact that player controls. So we're probably just going to pick, and it has trample, so we're probably just going to pick whoever has the most artifacts out. Again, earlier we said someone had 4, so we're just going to swing both copies of Cavern Horde Dragon out at that player. Both of them will deal combat damage. We'll make 4 treasures for each one. That gives us a total of 8 treasures. So we got 8 mana now in our second main phase to do stuff with, and then the 2 that we had left over. So we've got a total of 10 mana now to do something with. Probably what we want to do is just wait until our next turn. I don't think we're going to be able to get there this turn. We could cast Morphon, which would help us get out Dragon, but we kind of maybe don't want to cast all this stuff until we see if there's a board wipe on the next turn. Let's just go to our next turn. Okay, now we're in business because we've got lots of reduction here. And when we cast Morphon, so we'll pay 7 for Morphon. We'll just have 1 treasure left. We'll sacrifice 7 of the 8 that we had and go ahead and cast Morphon. So Morphon will come in as a dragon. Miram is going to make a copy of it, make 2 more of these. And now with the double reduction for Morphon and the reduction from the Speaker Shaman and the Dragon Lord Servant, we can basically cast everything for free. Let's start out with Terror of the Peaks. So a reduction of total of 3. He costs 3 and 2 red, and then Morphon will pay for the 2 red. So Terror of the Peaks is free. So we'll make a copy of Terror of the Peaks from Miram. Then we'll make 2 tokens from each of the Lathless Dragon, the Dragon Queens. Gross. Each of those. So the second Terror of the Peaks will trigger the first. Gross. So that's 5 damage for this one, 10 damage for that one. From there, we can go ahead and cast Earthquake Dragon for free. So that's going to trigger here for the Lathless. So make 2 more of these dragons, trigger both Terror of the Peaks. Each of them is going to see the Earthquake Dragon. So that's going to be 10 here, 10 here, and then another 10 with each of those. So 20 damage here coming in from that. And then the Earthquake Dragon copy that comes in, that's going to be another 10 here and 10 here. You see how this is just starting to get out of control. We probably don't even have to go to combat on this turn. We can pay a single mana to cast Dragon because of all the reductions. Morphon's going to pay for the Wooburg, and then we've got a reduction of 3 here, so we're just paying 1 generic mana for Dragon. Dragon is also 10/10. We're going to make a token copy of it. We're going to make 2 more of the 5/5s dragons from Lathless. So in all, that's going to be another 10, 20, 30 per each Terror of the Peak. So that's going to be another 60 damage that we can play with. We've got tons of mana still open. We've got Twin Flame Tyrant that we can also cast for free. Now that's just going to close out the game, because Twin Flame Tyrant doubles the amount of damage, and then the Miram makes a second copy of Twin Flame Tyrant. So now the Twin Flame Tyrant is going to trigger. These are going to, the Terror of the Peaks are going to start dealing double damage. So another 10, another 10. So that's 10 here, 10 here. So that's 20. This second token is going to be 3. So 6, 6, 12. So that's another 33 damage. And that didn't cost us any mana because of all the reductions. Ancient Copper Dragon we can pay 1 mana for. Just a generic mana. Again, make a copy. It's going to trigger Lathless. Going to be double damage, so 12 is 24. 2 more 5/5s that are 10/10s. It's going to be 50. Like, it just is absolute. If anyone is left alive right now, they have got some sort of, protection from direct damage, or they have hexproof themselves so that we can't target them. However, we've got so much and so many dragons out right now that it's just going to be absolutely bonkers. There's no way anyone's living through any of this. All we'd have to do is swing out at the person. So this is kind of the route this deck wants to take. As you can see, this is just absolutely out of control. There will be interaction in games. There's no simulation for interaction in games when we're gold fishing. And again, this is a more casual, it can go crazy, don't get me wrong, but it's a more casual deck in that we don't run a ton of interaction. We don't run a ton of counters. We don't run a ton of protection. We just want to play dragons and have a good time. That being said, you could very easily take this Tiamat deck and add your Force of Will, your Force of Vigor, your other free counter spells, just more counter spells in general. Those first few turns we had mana just kind of sitting up where we were ramping a little bit, but then didn't have enough to cast the bigger spells. So in the early game, you could very easily control some of that stuff, and you could just take out some of the bigger dragons. However, those few that we went and got with Tiamat, I wouldn't recommend getting rid of any of those. They do too much, and they do it really well together. Like, this one helps this one do this thing, and then as you saw, it just compiled and went absolutely crazy. So I wouldn't take out any of those, but if you want to take out some of the other ones that are redundancies of those dragons, then potentially you could do that and make some more room for interaction. I wouldn't get rid of any of the ramp either. Ramp is absolutely of the utmost important in this deck. You could also streamline the mana base a little bit more if you really want to get it like borderline CEDH. You could get there. You could run more tutors so that you can get to the pieces faster that you wanted. So you could even tutor for ramp pieces, tutor for those reduction pieces, tutor for those win cons, Dragon Tempest, some other things like that. The Call the Spirit Dragons is a win con. There's a handful of other win cons in there. But yeah, you could absolutely juice this up a little bit more. Proxies are your friend. I don't think anyone is going to care. So proxy to your heart's content and go have fun with this deck. Thank you so much again for checking out this deck tech. We hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go out there and you can build Tiamat, and I hope you have a blast with it. Again, I played it a bunch this last weekend at Command Fest, and it kicked so much butt. It was so much fun to play. Everybody that played against it really loved seeing the big splashy turns you could take with it. It's just one of those decks, and dragons are just one of those creature types that people love, and they don't hate losing to. I mean, no one loves to lose, but like, if you lose, going down in that way is super fun. Seeing that someone else's deck really just have those big turns is really fun and satisfying. So anyway, check us out. Be sure that you like and subscribe. Again, drop a comment on this video. It really helps us out, helps the algorithm. We don't have any videos that have 1,000 likes yet. See if we can get this one to 1,000 likes. That would be amazing. So anyway, we will talk to you in the next one. We hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.